Did you know a single bucket of water hydrates 4 blocks out? This means when you're starting your first farm and you only have that single bucket of water, instead of forming a small row of crops, you can till all of the surrounding dirt. This will give 80 full blocks of farmable land, which can be easily repeated even more, giving a gigantic amount of farmland early in the game. That was one farming tip, but here's 24 more. So now that you've started your farm and are starting to rake in crops and seeds, this is the best way to build it. First, dig out a very long row and fill the entire row with water. Then, with 8 blocks of space in between, dig a parallel row and also fill that with water. You can then till the entire area in between them where you can plant all of your crops. This can be repeated for as much land as you need. Did you know that this farm is actually double the speed of this one? There's no trick here or secret added, so what's the difference? Well, a mechanic very few know is that if you alternate every row with a different crop, like using wheat and carrots, it actually grows twice as fast. So the next time you have 2 seeds, it's well worth your time to plant them both in rows. How do I stop this problem from happening? When farming, the drops tend to spread out and fall into the water, so you have to head into the water to get them, and now on your way back, you've trampled all your crops. Luckily, there is an extremely easy fix. Very simply, place slabs over all of your water. Now the drops will not fall in and you can safely run everywhere with no fear of trampling your crops. Did you know that they can actually be grown during the night? Usually, crops will only ever grow during the daytime. But why actually is this? Well, the reason is not if the sun is out or not like many people think, but rather how much light the crops are getting. This means you can take advantage of this by placing torches near your crops to keep them growing for all hours of the day. I never use bone meal from skeletons, and this is why. If you need to grow crops fast, possibly to start a large farm, bone meal is the way to go. Using this on a plant will instantly grow it, making this the easiest and quickest way to obtain a lot of crops. The problem is most people think bone meal only comes from skeleton bones, but that only gives 3 bone meal each, which is actually way less efficient than my method. The better way of going about this is heading to the nether and finding a soul sand valley. This biome is abundant with large fossils made of up to 21 bone blocks, which give 9 bone meal each, much more than the skeletons. But how do I get absolute maximum efficiency without using any shortcuts like bone meal? The odd solution here is to use bees. You're probably asking, how could a bee possibly help grow plants? Well, bees have a habit of traveling out of their nest, heading to a flower, pollinating it, and then bringing the pollen back to their nest. While heading back though, the bees will drop pollen onto the ground. If this pollen lands on a plant, it will actually grow it. To take advantage of this, you can place beehives on one side of your farm and flowers on the other. Did you know the blocks surrounding the soil actually matter? If you're putting normal blocks around it, you're actually putting yourself at a disadvantage. Instead, if you place farmland around it, it will increase the growth time by up to double. This is especially useful if you're only growing a few crops, but if you're making a large-scale farm, you can still take advantage of this by boarding your farm for an additional row of farmland where you do not plant anything. This is why you don't want to harvest your crops just yet. Now that you have made a super efficient farm and all of your crops have grown, it is time to harvest. However, instead of just using your fist, you may have a tool with fortune on it. Whether it's a hoe or a pickaxe, you can use this on crops to reap many more while you harvest. The only thing it does not work on is wheat, but you will still get additional wheat seeds for expanding your farm even larger. How do I best farm pumpkins and melons? These plants grow in a unique way. When they are fully mature, the pumpkin or melon will grow directly adjacent to the plant ready to farm. The problem is which block it places on is unpredictable, which can make things grow incorrectly. The easiest fix here is if you place a block that is not dirt related like cobblestone on blocks nearby, it will not grow there, making it nice and neat. So how do I make the best melon and pumpkin farm to grow even bigger? Like the other farm, you want to start with a row of water and another row of water 8 blocks apart. You want to then till the soil on the blocks next to the water and the 2 rows in the center. Thanks to the water's 4-block radius, it will all be hydrated. You can place all the seeds and then surround the farm with cobblestone to make sure they all grow in perfect alignment. You can even use the slab trick from earlier to prevent any water problems. Now that it's time to harvest, does fortune work on melons and pumpkins? Unfortunately, it does not work on pumpkins, but it does work on melons, landing a lot more slices. However, there is another factor in play when you look at the actual uses for melons. Rather than food, melons are best used for trading to villagers to gain emeralds. The rate is 4 melon blocks for 1 emerald, so if you're going for that trade, it's actually best to use Silk Touch, which will guarantee an entire melon. What is the most important crop as you get later into the game? I think it might be sugarcane. The recipe for paper is needed to make fireworks for flying in elytra, which is probably the best method of transport. When starting out, this is difficult to find, but certain biomes actually contain a lot more. Any swamp biome contains double the normal amount of sugarcane found, and any desert biome has 6 times as much as a normal amount. So if you're starting out, you might just want to head to the desert. Where do I plant sugarcane though? Now that you're starting your farm, it's good to know you can place sugarcane on any dirt or sand next to water. It's a very common myth that sugarcane grows fastest on sand, but this simply is not true. It will grow the same speed no matter what block's on, so if you have more dirt, you should probably use that instead. Do you know how to mine bamboo? It's gained a lot of uses lately with a new wood being dedicated to it. What few know, however, is that instead of just using your fist or an axe, you can actually use a sword to mine it. Whether wood or netherite, this will mine it instantly, being by far the fastest way of mining bamboo. A plant just about nobody knows about though is glowberries. These spawn in lush caves and info around them is not super well known. The way to plant them is to place them on the underside of a block, but make sure you leave a lot of growing space beneath since these get up to 26 total blocks in length. That is a lot of space for getting glowberries, but I planted this one and I'm not seeing any berries. Why is that? Well, every vine grown only has an 11% chance of spawning a berry, so your odds are not great. You can bone meal the vine though, increasing your odds heavily. And once you do end up getting it, the best way to harvest is to simply climb up the vine where the berry is. Cocoa beans are found in jungles on the sides of jungle trees. To farm these, it's natural to assume it must be on the tree, but in reality, it can be placed anywhere. As long as it's on the side of a jungle log, you can farm cocoa in the masses. What is the most unique plant? My pick would probably be mushrooms. Most people don't even know you can farm these, and for good reason, because it is very secretive, but this is how. First, you need to actually get some mushrooms and then locate a dark place, likely in a cave. Once you place it, the mushroom will not grow normally. You need to bone meal it to turn it into a large mushroom. Mining that large mushroom will then give more of the small mushroom back, serving as an infinite source. However, there's even more to this. Mushrooms have the unique ability to spread. If there are very few mushrooms in a dark area, they will actually spread to the surrounding blocks, creating more of them. This will cap out at 5, but is a very strange way of increasing your mushroom count. We all know the feeling of needing a certain flower, perhaps for a house or for a dye, and running around for a very long time trying to find more. But there is an incredibly easy method that is not very well known. Extremely simply, place a flower and bone meal it. It will duplicate itself. This trick should absolutely be more well known for how useful it is. So we already have bones and fossils for getting bone meal, but there is another method. This is the composter. How this works is you place in organic materials, it will fill up, and at the end it yields 1 bone meal. This seems like way less than the other methods, but it's good in the fact that it can be automated. You can set up hoppers to automatically move in crops, seeds, or other organic materials that you don't want. In my case, I never use beetroot, so that's what I automate this farm with. One of the oddest plants must be the chorus. Exclusively found in the Outer End Islands, these drop chorus fruit and you can plant them by getting the chorus flower. What most people do not know though is that they don't only grow in the end but can be grown in any dimension, including the overworld and the nether. Additionally, it has the surprising effect of growing when bee pollen is dropped onto it, like many other crops. Sweet berry bushes are one of few crops that hurt you when walking into it. When they are fully grown and have berries, they have 2 distinct ways of harvesting. You can just break the crop, which works a fortune to gain extra berries, or you can simply right click with your fist, which will keep the bush grown. You can decide which one is better for you. And lastly, let's look at the cactus. This prickly plant cannot be grown next to any block, meaning it needs to be alone. The best thing about the cactus that not many know is that it works as a trash can. Any item thrown into it will completely go away instantly, so you can use this instead of a lava pit that will inevitably burn your house down. Like and subscribe for more Minecraft tips.